Before we get into Darkwood, I just want to give a big thanks to my new subscribers. We finally hit 400 subs. That is amazing. I just want to thank all of you. Now let's get into Darkwood. Darkwood isn't like any survival horror game I've ever played. From the very moment I launched it, I knew I was stepping into something completely different. Something far more unsettling than the usual horror tropes. Developed by Acid Wizard Studios, this indie gem completely rewrites the rules of the genre. There are no cheap jump scares, no convenient tutorials holding your hand, and definitely no flashy cinematic cutscenes guiding you from moment to moment. What it offers instead is something far more disturbing, a slow, suffocating descent into paranoia, dread, and desperate survival. What makes Darkwood so effective is its atmosphere. The game doesn't need to pop something out of the closet to scare me. It lets the silence, the shadows, and the unknown do all the work. Every time night falls, I put up my windows, trap the entrances, and wait. I've sat there in game with only a flickering light bulb and the sounds of something scratching beyond the walls. And in those moments, Darkwood becomes something truly terrifying. Not because something jumps out at you, because I don't know if something ever will. And its top-down perspective might seem limiting at first, but it turns out to be a brilliant design choice. I only see what my character sees and nothing more. That limitation to the vision constantly forces me to make tough decisions. Should I explore that dark corner? Is the cranking sound just the wind or something worse? That sense of never truly being safe is what gives this game its sharp edge. But I won't lie, Darkwood's also punishing. The world is brutal and unforgiving. Supplies are scarce, death is frequent, and mistakes have consequences. I've lost hours of progress to poorly timed trips into the woods by trusting the wrong character, like the wolf. The game doesn't coddle you. It challenges you to think, adapt, and suffer through your choices. And I personally love that kind of high-stakes experience. But I know it's not for everyone. Still, if you're willing to let go of traditional horror expectations and embrace a more psychological, slow-burning nightmare, Darkwood is absolutely unforgettable, and one of the few games that truly made me feel fear. Not because it told me I should be afraid, but because it created a world where fear feels natural, and even standing still feels dangerous. And that, to me, is the mark of something truly special. And with that, hope you enjoy my review of Darkwood. From the very moment you wake up in this decaying forest, Darkwood creates tension through world design, not monsters. Although the monsters are very terrifying once you see them, the thick woods are claustrophobic. The soundtrack is absent, replaced with ambient noises, creaking wood, distant screams, your heartbeat. This silence is what I think makes the horror so good in this game. The build up to when you finally see a monster or when you're startled or fall into a bear trap, it's just all the more terrifying, in my opinion at least. You're constantly on edge, and every step into the zone feels like a mistake you can't undo. When you hear top-down survival horror, you probably don't think terrifying, but Darkwood weaponizes that perspective in a way that I've never seen before. Your field of vision is very limited, not just by trees and walls, but by what your character is actually facing. You can only see what they see. Everything else is a mystery. Something might be lurking behind you, but you won't know unless you turn around, and sometimes you wish you hadn't. Sounds give you hints, but not always in time, meaning you need to be aware and alert at all times, because you never know when something's going to sing up behind you and attack you from behind. The game forces you to listen carefully. You're constantly second-guessing yourself, spinning in place, unsure if you're hearing your own footsteps or something else lurking in the woods, wanting to take you out. It's psychological horror, I feel like, at its best. You're hearing all these noises, second-guessing yourself, and the whole experience just makes you paranoid, and I love that. And when it comes to the survival aspect of the game, in Darkwood, survival isn't about hoarding everything. It's about making hard choices with what little you have. Fuel your generator, board your barricades, nail your reinforcements. Every item matters. There's no luxury here. Your supplies, you have to manage them, or you could risk not being prepared for the night. Routes, you gotta plan them, or you could risk getting lost in the woods. And you better worry if you don't make it home before nightfall, because when night does fall, the house or hideout becomes your sanctuary and your prison. You board up the windows, you set your traps, then you wait. With lights flickering and shadows dancing on the walls, you grip your weapon and hope you did enough, because something's coming for you, and you might not make it. The world is sick, literally. The force is spreading, people are mutating. The narrative doesn't give you clean answers, but it's layered in metaphor and mystery, with characters like the Wolfman and Piotrek, the rocket builder, living with more questions than answers. You interpret the story as much as you experience it. The ambiguity makes it powerful and deeply unsettling. Darkwood doesn't insult you with cheap tricks. There's no loud violin screeches when something bursts through the door. In fact, you rarely see things that haunt you. The game earns your fear the hard way. Over time, it builds like dread or like layers of rot. One moment you feel somewhat in control, the next, the game turns and you realize you're not alone in your very own home. It doesn't want to startle you. It wants to disturb you, to unsettle you so deeply. Even after you turn off the game, you can still hear the howling outside your boarded up hideout, and that kind of fear sticks. As incredible as Darkwood is, it's also punishing, obscure, and very niche. It's not for everyone, I will say. It isn't a thrill by a minute game, if that makes sense, meaning there's going to be a lot of quiet in between the scares, because the tension builds up as you play. There are long stretches when you're simply walking in silence, managing your inventory, or trying to decipher cryptic clues. If you're in need of constant action or jump scares to stay engaged, Darkwood will feel slow and maybe even frustrating at times. The game's hard and you will die a lot. The game's top-down combat can feel clunky, especially in tight spaces or when you're panicking. Enemies do not pull punches. Some nights are brutally unfair, and this is a game that expects you to adapt and not complain. But I do love the story. If you love tight character-driven narratives, Darkwood might disappoint. It's surreal and dreamlike. A lot of the story is hidden in item descriptions, bizarre dialogue, and really fun to just explore the world and find all these clues that hint at like a deeper mystery. And I find it so fascinating. And if you like stuff like that, you'll very much enjoy this. The game is bleak. Every moment reinforces that you're alone, doomed, or slowly losing your mind. And if you're already in a bad headspace, this might not be a game to dive into. It doesn't offer hope, only survival. But does that mean Darkwood's the best horror game? Ultimately, I think it depends on what you personally like about horror and horror games in general. If you value atmosphere over action, and if you want a game that gets under your skin instead of screaming in your face, then yes, Darkwood is unforgettable, and it's a masterpiece in my opinion. It's smart, stylish, deeply psychological, and that stands above most horror games I've played. When the horror gets old and you get numb to it, jump scares get old, they're not fun anymore, they just seem cheesy and boring. But with Darkwood, no jump scares, just pure, unadulterated atmosphere. The tension builds as you play. As the nights and the days go on, the horrors of the night become more and more prevalent, and survival becomes much more harder to survive. But if you need accessibility, fast pacing, or a guided experience, you may bounce off of this game, and that's okay. Some forests are meant to be explored by everyone. With that being said, this game is just fantastic. Like, this part's unscripted. I just wanted to add this at the end. I was so used to horror games being not fun anymore. I wasn't necessarily there for the horror, but more for the action. To give an example, the Resident Evil games, first one I played was 2, and that game was scary. It was my second horror game I ever played. My first being Outlast, and that game was terrifying, but as I played more of the Resi games, and more games like Outlast, the horror in each game just felt less and less scary, and more so like a walking sim or a action game. And maybe that's why I like this so much, as it was just so different compared to those games and those experiences that I wouldn't say I was scared, but I was definitely tense while playing this game. A feeling I haven't really had playing a horror game in a long time, not since I first played Outlast. And if I could give it a comparison to any game I've recently played, it definitely does give Stalker vibes. Like you're in a zone filled with mutants. Like, that's probably the only comparison I can really give for Stalker, but this game just is great. And the people at Acid Wizard Studios, I don't know how much money they had to make this game, but I know it wasn't a lot. They had people were pirating their game, and back when it came out, people couldn't afford a $15 game, so they just put it on the pirate website or whatever, and hoping people would buy it. And as of right now, the game only has 19,000 reviews on Steam. So they said the game sold very well, but this game deserves a lot more attention than what it has. So if you got 15 extra bucks, or if you wait for it to go on sale, it goes on sale quite a bit for like $5 most of the time. I would highly recommend picking up Darkwood, as it's probably one of the better survival horror games I've played. My only complaint is that once you've played through it once, the game feels very short, as you know what to do, narrative-wise. I wish the game had some sort of, like, stalker anomaly type game mode where you could just explore the zone, and it's just a big world. Like, that's asking too much, I know, but I just really would love that. This game deserves something like that. Maybe there are mods for it, I don't know, but with that, hope you enjoyed my video about Darkwood. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing, as it would help me out a lot. The next goal is 500. And with that, see you guys next time. Peace out.